Good morning, Campbell McCreary here, Amvest Capital in New York City. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Argentina Lithium and Energy Corp. Argentina Lithium trades on the venture as LIT and as PNXLF, as Papa Nevada X-Ray Lima Foxtrot on the OTCQB. This event will be available in about an hour and a half after we wrap up. You can get a copy, which you'll be emailed, but you can also just go to amvestcapital.com/replays. And really great part of our webinars is you can ask questions of management. So something should be throbbing on your screen. Just fill that box in and send us questions, and we'll ask them in real time. During the show, if you like it, you can share the event with people. That's very cool. Email or social media. The links will all work for live and the replay. It's all the same link. And then, of course, here are important downloads and presentations and all that. Amvest Capital, of course, is New York-based specialist investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. And please note, again, this call is most definitely for informational purposes only. Presenting today, Nikos Kakos, President and CEO and Director of Argentina Lithium and Energy, and Miles Rideout, VP of Exploration, both very engaging and interesting people. And I'm going to pass it over to Nico to kick us off, and we'll hear from both of them through the presentation and then move on to Q&A. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Campbell, for that introduction, and welcome everybody. Thank you for dialing in and listening to our presentation today. And well, I think we have a very unique company here, Argentina Lithium. The company has basically been formed to basically focus on lithium in a very underexplored country, Argentina, where I will demonstrate is one of the most underexplored countries and has some of the best opportunities for making these discoveries. As Campbell stated earlier, we will be making some forward-looking statements, so I do encourage you to have a read over this later. But this is where we're focused. This is the Lithium Triangle. The Lithium Triangle encompasses part of Bolivia, part of Chile, and northwestern Argentina. You can see from this map that the largest portion of the triangle encompasses in Argentina, and this is where approximately half of the world's lithium is produced, and up to about 60% of the known lithium reserves exist. And again, I would like to point out that the majority of those reserves and production does come from Chile. Argentina is a very underexplored country. It's the 8th largest country in the world, and it wasn't until about just under 30 years ago that it liberalized its mining to invite foreign investors. So a lot of it remains relatively unexplored, and what that means for a company like Argentina Lithium and for us as investors, it means that there's great opportunity here to make big discoveries, and many of them. So this is where our focus is. And in this part of the country as well, there's lots of proximity to rail, water, and roads. And I should also add that the government of Argentina, both provincially and federally, has been very supportive of lithium exploration, and really encouraging a lot of foreign investment. So, and a further opportunity, if I might add, is in the last couple of years, as we've seen with the pandemic, there's been a lot of companies that have not been active in this part. And as we have a fairly significant presence of staffing in Argentina, we've been very busy in acquiring some very unique opportunities, which we'll be talking about. The company managing Argentina Lithium is the Grosso Group management. Grosso Group management's been around basically since Argentina opened up its mining for foreign investment back in 1993. That's nearly 30 years now. And it's headed by Joseph Grosso, who's also our chairman of the company. The Grosso Group is extremely well known in Argentina. We're known as pioneers. It's an award-winning organization and has had a lot of success in that country outside of the lithium space, but in other discoveries. There's made 4 major discoveries: the Gualcamayo gold mine, which is still in production today; the Chinchillas silver lead zinc mine in northern Argentina, where we through an associated company, we took it from basically from exploration discovery all the way up through into production, and as well as the Navidad silver deposit, which is today's we're still the world's largest undeveloped silver deposit that's owned currently by Pan American Silver, and of course the Amarillo Grande uranium vanadium discovery, a new world-class uranium district in the southern part of Argentina. This is quite an exceptional track record for any management team. It's quite unheard of, and it just speaks to the to the expertise of the organization and the people that are behind it. The team includes, well, I've been with the Grosso Group since the very inception back in '93. I'm the president and CEO of Argentina Lithium. Miles Rideout, who's going to be talking in a few minutes here, he is an exceptional geologist and geophysicist with very extensive experience over 3 decades. And he's got very extensive experience in the lithium space. He's been a very key addition, and I think we're going to see some very good things happen over the next little while with Miles' addition here. And of course, Joseph Grosso, he's the president of the Grosso Group. He's also the chairman of the board. He's been named Mining Man of the Year in Argentina. He's been inducted into Argentina's Mining Hall of Fame. There's not many people who don't know him in that country. He brings in a huge competitive advantage for our country to be able to operate there in Argentina. And now lithium. I mean, many of you probably will have heard of lithium, being used for batteries. This is becoming, and for computers, for cell phones, and for automobiles. We're seeing the demand for lithium really beginning to take off, and the price of lithium beginning to go up. There's such a demand for it, and its production is really quite limited. And there are very few places in the world where you can actually source lithium, Argentina being one of the most prominent in terms of potential. And with this, brings us to the projects, the Incahuasi project, and I'm going to pass it over to Miles to walk you through some of the potential in the projects that we currently have. Miles?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm just checking that I've got control here. Okay. Well, you heard about me. Now, some about me. I've done work in Incahuasi and the adjacent Salar Antofalla. I've been doing a lot of that for the last 4 years. And I've been working on brine deposits since 1989, on and off, amongst other things. So Incahuasi, we have a 25,000 hectare property in Incahuasi. Basically, we have the Salar. We got some good surface values in sampling 3 years ago, and I think we have 3 holes drilled. The holes so far haven't, I mean, they produce brines, but not the high-grade brines that we're looking for. So our plan in the near to midterm is to review this Salar. I think I will recommend additional geophysics, and we're going to see if we can find pockets of high grade. My point here, and I think it's our corporate point, is we're looking to improve our grade on, or prove up a higher grade resource. I think that'll make the company more resilient to a production scenario in a couple of years, where the lithium price is expected to peak, and then maybe in the future likely decline. And I think that upgrading resources when we have the opportunity is the way to go, so that we're resilient in a if the lithium price in a few years does start to decline, we'll have a low cost and a better production scenario. So back to Incahuasi, the logistics here are excellent. I mean, we're quite close to the town of Antofagasta La Sierra. It's easy access. It's low elevation. It's about 3,400 meters. It's a large salar, and we have all of it. Just as a reference, if other people are following the lithium story with other companies, we're not very far north of the Lake Resources Karachi Pampa resource. So it's a sort of a somewhat interconnected basin, and they're about 25 kilometers to the south of our Incahuasi project. Let me just see. I'm just going to go to the next slide. So there's us working. So anyway, there's some details of our sampling. I'll be designing reviewing all this, designing an exploration program, and looking for high-grade brines that we may have missed in our first pass. And anyway, that section I'm showing right now, that was the original geophysics there, which is vertical electrical soundings. I think that there's a better approach. I'm going to recommend transit electromagnetics, which are deeper seeing, they're fast to execute, and we can cover the whole salar. Probably I'll be doing point soundings, I think, and at least initially. And so using that better technology, we'll be taking another look at Incahuasi. Let me see. Okay, so these are some of the results that we got with our initial drilling. So not the kinds of grades we're looking for yet, but all the holes produce brines and lithium. But I think that we can upgrade our geophysics technology and go looking for high-grade brines in this favorable salar. Okay. The next property package is Antofalla. So here we are. This is immediately west of Incahuasi. Antofalla is a very long salar. It's about 140 kilometers in length and about 7 kilometers wide. And what's interesting with Antofalla is Albemarle Corp took a large position in the central part of the salar. This was a few years ago, and have done extensive drilling there. Their drilling has shown, well, they've proved up a resource with an average grade of 350 milligrams per liter of lithium. It's a very deep salar. I've done a lot of work there myself, and portions of the salar are perhaps 500 meters deep. It's very difficult to drill to the bottom of that salar. Anyway, so Albemarle is in the center, and they've done the lion's share of the drilling. We have a property package in the north. It is totals about 14,400 hectares. And what's significant with our property package is we have the portion of the salar which is in Salta. The politics between the Salta province and Catamarca province to the south are different. In my opinion, Catamarca is a bit more bureaucratic, say. And so permitting takes a little bit longer. Being with Antofalla North being in Salta, I think we can fast track our work here. Now, no one's drilled in the north part of the salar yet. It's highly prospective. Surface sampling, and I've done surface sampling here. Surface sampling across this salar returns lithium everywhere, which is significant. And so we've done limited geophysics here, and I'm working on a plan right now that we can drill on this property package. Let me just see what else we have in the slide ensemble here. Right, so we're showing one of our CSAMT sections on the property package there. So CSAMT, it's a magnetotelluric technique, very high resolution, deep seeking. You can get down to about, well, better than 600 meters depth. And of course, you know, if we're looking at electrical resistivity, the conductive zones are the more conductive brine areas. And the resistive zones, well, in this environment, It could be less porous, less permeable rock, or it could be less concentration of brine. Let me just see if there's anything else there. Nico, have I missed anything on those two properties?
No, you have not. Thank you, Miles. Well, and I guess actually today we also have announced the acquisition of a new project. Maybe, Miles, you can touch on that.
I can. So we're very excited about this. Now, this is getting back to our philosophy that we're taking the opportunity where possible to upgrade grades and also certainty on resource. So what we've done, we've signed a deal for a property in central Salta at the Salar de Rincon. So this is about 90 kilometers west of the high grounds business center. It's called San Antonio de los Cobres, and it's the largest town in the Altiplano of Argentina. And we've picked up a property on the west side of the Salar. It's, let me see, it's 2,370 hectares. And now what's interesting about this is the Salar's already has two companies working on taking their projects forward to production. They're reporting results of approaching 400 milligrams per liter lithium. It's between about 350 and 400 they're getting. What's attractive about our property is it's good size for production. We are in an area which is sand and gravel, and so we haven't drilled yet. No one's drilled this property, but looking at the surface structure, it seems to me that we can expect good flow rates, it would be where I would drill first for good flow rates in production wells. So we expect to fast track a drill program here. I'll probably put some geophysics in front because it's easy and inexpensive to do. Pick some drill sites and drill it, and probably this will be our main effort for the coming months, is focusing on Rincon West. A few other comments about its location. Rincon West is immediately south of the main highway into northern Chile. So this is the highway which would take us down to the port of Antofalla. And so if we can get through to a production scenario here, there's one very, very easy route for material coming into our project and product being exported through Chile to the Pacific ports. Okay. Another point in favor is there's a major power corridor which runs within 1 kilometer of the Salar. So we're well ahead in terms of how we get power to a production facility here. It's a bit higher than the other projects that we've discussed. It's about 3,700 meters elevation, but we're further north, and the situation here is very good. Getting snow in the area is almost, it's very exceptional that we would have snow here. There's no high passes that we need to go through to access the property. So it's really a very good location for all your operation, whether for exploration or a production scenario. Let me see. I think that's most of the news. Anyway, so this is going to be the focus for our main drilling effort for the coming months. With this package, with the Rincon West package, the vendor has provided us a second property, which is at the Salar de Pocitos. So this is about 40 kilometers to the south of Rincon. There's been very limited work at Pocitos, and we have access to a large property package. Let me see, it's 15,800 hectares there in a sort of a north-south strip on the west side of the Salar. And we'll be doing an evaluation for potential there to see what we find. So using advanced geophysics technologies, and then we'll make a decision on if we want to drill or how we want to handle that. So that's a sort of an add-in on the deal that we're closing this week. Oh, I'll just add in, if we do find a good resource at Pocitos, it's another area with excellent logistical support. There's a small town on the east side of the Salar, which has a railway. In fact, the railway runs right through the property, and that runs down to the ports on the Pacific coast in Chile. That railway, by the way, is inactive right now. It's got just east of the Salar, there's the gas pipeline, which takes natural gas to the Salar de Hombre Muerto projects. So if we need well, gas, transport, and there's a power line running into Pocitos as well. So it's a very, logistically, a very easy area to work. And again, it's about 90 kilometers from San Antonio de los Cobres. It's about a 1.5-hour drive to get in there. So easy access. We'll be evaluating using geophysics the potential here, and perhaps in future we'll be providing more news on Pocitos.
Excellent. And our capital structure right now, we've got just under 50 million shares out. Most of these shares, I'd say close to about 65–70% owned by close friends, management and associates. And in our treasury right now, we've got just around $1 million. So yes, we will be raising some funds in the near future to ensure that we have enough money, because Miles is putting together a fairly aggressive exploration program. You know, the new project that we announced, we're going to plan to do some geophysics and do some drilling, as well as testing some of the other projects that we talked about today. So as that pretty well brings us to a conclusion for the formal part of the presentation. Definitely open to take questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll start with, has COVID affected your business? And has it anything been delayed?
Yes, COVID has affected our business. In the last year, there was a lot of lockdowns in Argentina. So there was, all activities pretty well came to a halt. But that actually created quite a bit of an opportunity for us, in that in the previous years, as the price of lithium had come off, a lot of companies that were in the exploration business for Argentina, looking in lithium in Argentina, had basically pulled back, and then the COVID situation essentially prevented anybody from coming back in. And as the restrictions began to lift, this is what gave us a real competitive advantage, in that we have a big, significant team in Argentina that we're able to get out there and to negotiate and to acquire projects with less competition. So in a way, it's created an opportunity for us.
Very good. Understand Argentina differs province by province, its friendliness to mining. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and Argentina in general and your experience?
Well, yes, Argentina is, the mining industry is very much regulated at a provincial level, while the federal government is very supportive of mining, because it's a very underdeveloped industry, and they just have to look over to the west and see Chile, that has a very highly developed mining industry, and it brings a very significant revenues to the government coffers. The federal government is supportive to be able to bring to allow the mining industry to develop and to that stage, so that they can get the revenues that their neighbors get. Now, provincially, yes, it does differ from province to province, but the provinces that we're working in is here in northern Argentina, or Catamarca and Salta, are all very supportive of not just mining, but also very supportive of lithium So we're in a good environment, and we're seeing a lot of support from all local governments.
Okay, could you distill your upcoming catalysts again in a nutshell?
Absolutely. I think in the next, in the next 60 days, I think we're going to see us embark on an exploration program on the new Rincon project. And I expect to see a drill campaign begin there. So results from that will definitely be a catalyst for the company. And also in the next, before the end of the first quarter of 2022, we'll also be in a position to be drilling our other project at Antofalla in the northern part. So as results begin to come back from that, I think it's going to dictate the next steps going forward.
Good. All right. I'll pass it over to Adam for a few questions. Adam?
Sure.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Sorry. Just make sure. Yep, I'm on. Great. So when you're comparing your Incahuasi and Antofalla projects to what you're just acquiring, is it the is it the grades that you see as from the from Rincon that are more attractive than your other assets, or is it the access to infrastructure, or is it both?
Miles, why don't you take that one?
Sure. What I like about Rincon is the surety of the project. The setting is perfect. The grades, I can't say the grades are assured, but the Salar has been well explored to the east of us, and ours, everything that I indicate here needs to be confirmed through drilling, but the setting looks ideal for a production scenario. If we have the gravels and sands at surface extending to depth, we'll have high flow wells with, I imagine, the same grades that our neighbors to the east have, so about 390 milligrams. So that's an excellent scenario for production. And the logistics make it very easy. The permitting, well, we already have a drill permit. I'm just reviewing that right now. And but the logistics are very easy for doing our accelerated exploration program with excellent support out of San Antonio de los Cobres. And going forward to a production scenario, we have all the basic infrastructure we would need for production there. So when we saw this opportunity come up, we jumped at it because everything's a green light on Rincon. Compared to Antofalla, what I like about Antofalla is its size. Our Antofalla North property, I mean, we've got more than 14,000 hectares there under option. It's all in Salta, so this is, that's a big win for getting permitting for every step of the project, for the drilling and everything else. Salta makes it easy for us. We're located just to the west of Salar de Hombre Muerto. It's a distance of about 50 or 60 kilometers west of Salar de Hombre Muerto. But the area isn't as developed as what we have on Rincon West. So we'd be working out of camps supported out of San Antonio de los Cobres, but the transit time's longer there. It's about 2.5 hours from San Antonio. And there's been no drilling in the north of Antofalla yet. So in this case, we look at the results from Albemarle, averaging about 350. I hope we can do that, or perhaps we can do better, but we don't know. So what we have there is size. It's an excellent Salar, which will go into production, presumably with Albemarle in the coming years, and we've got the portion of that Salar in Salta, which gives us favorable jurisdiction for exploration and for a production plan. So that's how they compare. But when I look at Rincon West, I just say, well, that looks like an excellent, really first-class project which ticks all the boxes.
Gotcha. And maybe changing the topic a little bit, I was actually reading an article this morning. It was sort of, are EVs as environmentally friendly as they're portrayed to be? And one of the points was that, production from the Salars use a lot of water in regions that are, as you would expect from Salars, quite sparse, at least from of surface waters. And my first thought was, well, my crude understanding of the sort of the Salar recovery process for lithium, and is you pump up high grade brines and you basically let the sun evaporate the water, but the water per se is from the brines. So nobody's using brine water to water their fields or to drink. So I was wondering if I was missing something there.
Can I answer this question?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what you're describing is the case of current production. So this would be the case that is in the Salar, in the second region of Chile, where actually a couple of companies have large production, like really large production facilities in Chile. And it's the case of production ongoing right now in Salar de Morto. So they have these large evaporation ponds. And what you do is it's a years-long process as you're evaporating, the brines that you've pumped, and you'll have, certain minerals will precipitate out first. You transfer the brines to the next pond in the sequence, and you're removing some of the contaminants, and then at some point you'll go to a chemical process to refine your lithium. It's a long, awkward process, but it's the proven process. What we're focusing on is there's been huge advances in the selective extraction of lithium, also called direct extraction of lithium. So this would be where you're passing your brines through filters first, and then they'll go through like a bank of membranes, where the membranes, it's like an ion exchange, but the technologies are not always like exactly ion exchange. There'll be different technologies that work with this, and they're competing technologies. But you'll have these columns of basically pellets, which collect your lithium, and just the lithium. They have a very high rejection rate for other metals. Once you've loaded these columns with lithium, you'll go through the desorption process, which depends on the technology. You'll use a weak acid or a hydrochloric acid, or you'll use maybe a carbon dioxide gas, and you'll desorb the lithium, and then you can finish your process and produce lithium hydroxide or lithium carbonate. Now, what I like, and I'm sort of amplifying the response to your question, what I like about these advanced direct extraction technologies is they're fast. You're going from your brine to a product ready for final processing in a couple of hours. The next thing is you don't have the big evaporation ponds on surface. What we'll be doing is we'll be pumping the brines, going through our filters and our bank of ion absorption material, and then pumping the clean brines, or now without lithium, back into the Salar. And so we'll be planning a system of extraction points and injection points to improve recovery from the properties. Now, these technologies are all changing rapidly, and we're studying several of the competing technologies right now so that we're informed about this when we're ready to go with production scenario. But they're improving the number of cycles you can get on their on their desorption material, and they're improving how you process it. And so I don't think that any of these technologies are currently in use for lithium brines today, but they are used for other metals extraction processes. But these companies are really focusing on lithium brines. I think that's the future for these extraction companies. So we'll be seeing a lot more of this going forward. Now, back to your original question on the water consumption. You don't need, for any of these technologies, you don't need a large amount of water on the front end of your process. I mean, if you're doing the conventional route, as you point out, you're extracting brines and you're doing the evaporation. But you do need some water on the late stage chemical side for rinses and things like that. And I think what happens, I have a slightly jaundiced viewpoint. There are concerns anywhere in the world where the environmental side will set up arguments against mining, whether it's copper, gold, or anything else, or lithium, and say, well, you guys are using water. I mean, most mining processes will use water at some point. I don't think that the lithium utilization of water is intensive. And certainly, well, pumping brines out of a salar, those brines would be toxic to plant life or any other life. A brine is not water.
That's what this is. This was part of the article that, knowing a little bit about how the conventional process is done, I said to myself, who is going to be using these brines for anything else? So how can that be counted as water usage? Just
right.
Me.
And I guess part of it, and I've seen this written, and one concern would be, one of the scenarios that we would have, and it's quite a common scenario, we'll have fresh water or perhaps brackish water at the top of the column in a salar, and then you've got your intense brines at depth. So if you're extracting brines, potentially you could be pulling down the whole water column, and you're not extracting the fresh water on top of the column, but you might be pulling it down. Now, today's mining companies, and many of them are Canadian like us, they're highly responsible companies. And I've done consulting for these people when they're saying, we need to solve, for instance, the problem of how we drill or how we produce brines without contaminating the surface waters. So all the companies I've been in contact with, they're all very conscious of the environmental impact, and they're trying to employ best practices to have the least possible impact on the environment and on the local communities. So, if there is a problem, I think that whether it's us or any other company, I think we're all striving to resolve any potential problem or conflict with communities or the environmental segment. But like I say, I don't think it's the size of problem which some people might lead you to believe. And if we go to one of these alternative direct extraction technologies, what you pump out within 2 hours, you're pumping back into the salar. So with an advanced extraction technology, you're not actually influencing the level of the salar at all.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know offhand if Miles, if those other extraction technologies, these new iron, absorption extraction technologies, if they are also set up to be, recovering the potassium?
Yes, they can. It depends which technology you use. There are technologies where they can fine tune it to fit any of the metal ions that you could name. And you'll see when you look at these companies, they'll have dozens of patents. So the main patents are for the ligands or for the molecules which are tied to like a membrane. In this case, the membrane is shaped like a pellet, a round pellet. And so there'll be technologies on which they've patented how you actually attach the collector to the membrane, and that'll be a key patent. And then they'll have patented all the different molecules or components that you can tie to that ligand. And you'll change those or design those for the different ion that you're trying to collect. And so you'll see when you go into the nuts and bolts of these companies that they'll have 30 patents, and some are the critical patents for their technology, and then some are all the variations to collect different ions.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay,
no, I was just saying from your assets, do you see other byproducts as going to be as economic, using the technology that seems to be emerging?
Sure. Potassium would be the obvious next product, and that would have to be based on a cost and expense analysis. So if it's going to be profitable to set up a set of columns designed to extract the potassium, and then the refinement of the potassium as a second stage, the answer is going to be yes. And I imagine that's going to depend on grade and what the potassium market looks like by the time we get into production. So that's something that I'm going to sort of leave out there. I would say, though, from the market analysis, and what we're seeing with lithium, to my mind, is the big product for the next few years. With the electrical vehicle explosion, I think that we're going to see strong drivers on lithium price. So while potassium might be a nice adjunct to the production, I think if an investor was focusing on the lithium story, probably that's a sensible thing. The potassium is going to be an add-on, which is going to my mind, be of lower value.
Yes, like I mentioned, Miles, it would be a byproduct. So it would be, from an investor standpoint, they would, the investor would be, interested in that, as it would impact your effective, reduce your effective cost structure.
Right. Exactly.
So any other, elements that you think would be, that are common, in these types of deposits and the assets that, that you've, already done detailed work on, that you think could potentially be economic using these new technologies, economic as a byproduct?
So far in the area that we're discussing, I haven't seen, other elements or other ions in solution where you'd say that's an obvious one. But, in other locations, certainly it could be. And depending on what happens with the market, it might be. But it seems to me lithium will be the main one, and potassium is the second.
Excellent. Let me throw it back to Campbell, because I think there might be some more questions from the audience.
Yeah, we've got about a dozen questions, and just going to move fast with them. So just the short answers. But we've still got some nice time. So what's the current price of lithium broadly, and how has it performed, and how are you even gauging the price of lithium for that matter? So how spot lithium or whatever.
Miles, have you got I haven't seen the last week here.
I'm not up to date on current happenings in lithium. And I know that we're expecting lithium to peak in the next 2 years, but it's been moving recently, but I haven't kept track.
Yeah, I was reading an article just the other week, but the lithium price was being quoted in China's currency, or yuan, and what we've seen is that in the last year, the price of lithium has basically quadrupled. So, that's
how do you get a quote on lithium? The price of lithium, is it kind of self-reporting?
Well, no, it's an odd market. Basically, what happens is it's not a commodity market. So what you would do is you would have a purchase contract with a consumer of lithium, and many of them are located in Asia, and you would be determining, designing your product for that purchaser and you would be saying, we want 99% purity or some other percent purity, and the exact specification on that product at that price. And so it's not a commodity which is easy to quote on some kind of an exchange. It doesn't trade that way. And so when they're tracking it, I'm actually not sure how they come up with this market price, because it's based on specific trade deals between consumers and suppliers.
Right. So maybe it's part intelligence gathering by people.
Yeah.
Someone says, see many companies racing to the market in the lithium space. Such a broad question, but everyone asks that, when do you expect you could see production? But maybe you can answer broadly as well.
Nico, I can answer this. Right now, we're in the exploration stage, and we want to develop our resource for the next step. So it would be, I wouldn't be able to say it'll be X many years going forward, but we're talking, a few years. What we expect, though, is that by the time we have our resource in place, these direct extraction technologies, they're marginally viable right now, but they're coming forward. So I expect that when we're ready to go, we will have identified which direct extraction technology we're going to use, and we'll be able to do, go to pilot stage and then full production in a compressed time frame, compared to, say, how a conventional lithium development would have been with the construction of all the evaporation ponds, and then you initiate that evaporation process and all the test work in front. So I think that our timing, even though we're not the first, but I think we're going at an appropriate step that we can use the new technologies when they come online.
Hear that Mongolia has a lot of lithium. Comment: could they be an important competitor to Argentina?
I don't know. I haven't kept up with what's going on there. Mongolia has its own issues. It's very landlocked, well, we'll have to see what happens there. I can't speak to that, except that potentially they could have lithium.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I think the demand for lithium is there. So as new suppliers of production of lithium comes on, I think the market will be able to absorb that.
Again, water, too much or too little in the area? Are you worried about water supply?
No, I don't think we need to be too concerned right now. Fresh water is available in Argentina's high plain, and how you would source it or where you'd source it depends on your location. And but there's, I've done a lot of traveling in the area. There are small communities. They have fresh water. Fresh water is available. It might not be right at your site. And but for instance, with our Antofalla North project, I know that there's fresh water available from two sites about 15 kilometers south of us. So, there you can find your fresh water if you need it.
Does management see itself ultimately as a mine builder?
Well, we like Miles indicated, as we get a resource, and then we would be teaming up with an advanced technology extraction technology company to basically develop a pilot plant, and then they go and put it into production. So we would be involved in it. Yes. Another option, of course, would be, at a decision point at that time, would we be in a position to sell it to somebody else? Again, that would depend on the price and market conditions at that time.
Could you see processing being done on site? Any visibility there?
I think so, yes. I think that it depends on, I mean, the final decision will depend on what's going on. We might, if we're in a scenario where there's two other producers on the same Salar as us, we might actually negotiate, some arrangement. But using these advanced technologies, it's a very clean process. I think that everybody's doing, well, at least advanced refinement on site. Maybe some people are doing their final production off-site, but I think everybody has the idea that you want to get something very close to final on-site before you start transporting it.
Power source? Possible power
Okay, so
source.
For Rincon West, there's electrical power within 1 kilometer of Salar, and it's just within a few kilometers of us. So for Rincon West, it's easy. If we're talking about, say, Antofalla North, okay, availability of electrical power is an issue. So we would have to either use generators on site or construct a power line in from probably Salar de Hombre Muerto. So that might be, say, a 50 or 60 kilometer long power line for a production scenario at Antofalla North. Some areas of Argentina's high plain are much less developed than others, and so this is one of the reasons that Rincon West stands out, because we've got everything we need.
How many drill insertions would need to be performed before you can decide to start work on one of the mines?
It'll be a number, potentially dozens. What we would do is be initially exploration drilling, which is a different kind of hole from the production wells, and much cheaper. A production well is a single production well is a large investment. You're putting down a 12-inch or an 18-inch hole, and you're lining it, and you need a special, the lining process is not just a piece of pipe. To get high flow rates, you'll put like a filter around the hole to ensure permeability on the hole. So production wells are very different, and they're rather expensive. So we'll be doing our exploration using much faster and less expensive exploration drilling, and that will, we'll do whatever density we need to define the resource with high certainty, and then we'll look at the production scenario. But certainly we're talking about potentially dozens of exploration wells and production wells. Well, we'll have to do the math and see how many we need.
Can you care to comment on your stock price performance the last few years in comparison to other lithium plays during the same period?
Well, the last few years, the last year is, I think, relevant. Prior to that, I think it's kind of irrelevant. I think COVID played a big role in keeping investors out of the market and kept us from doing any work. And prior to that, the third year going back, the price of lithium was still basically on a decline. But in the last year, we've seen our stock price basically go up from a nickel up to about 33 cents, where we're at right now. Our market cap has increased substantially. I think as we're advancing now, as we're acquiring the projects, and with today's announcement, and as we step forward in the next couple of months, where we're going to have an onset of exploration and our drilling programs, I expect to see our stock price continue to reflect these positive moves in the market.
Given the many new mining projects in Argentina, should the nearby lithium refinery hit capacity, what is the backup plan to refine lithium?
Oh, so I'll just take this one. So right now, no one's, as far as I know, no one's using like a common refinery. What they're doing is they have their own refinement on site. It just seems to me reasonable that if as projects develop, if somebody finds they have capacity or could add on capacity, there might be potential for deals to help bring capacity, more production capacity online by sharing facilities. But right now, it's not a case where there are shared facilities and they're going to hit capacity. The projects are separated by, the different projects with different companies are separated by potentially hundreds of kilometers. And so people are designing their own production facilities. I don't expect we're going to have an overcapacity situation.
Do you think that given the critical Argentina economic situation, your project could be affected in any way? So Argentina being what it is.
I don't think so. We've been active in Argentina for almost the last 30 years, as I stated during the presentation. We've seen economic crises come and go many times in Argentina. We've seen many government people get elected, making, from the left wing, right wing, whatever it may be. But the one thing that's always remained so steady has been the support for mining and our ability to continue to operate there. I don't know, Miles, if you've got anything else to add.
Sure, I will. Now, what happens is Argentina is essentially a moving target. Their economic situation swells on a 10-year period, more or less. Now, what happens is when they get into a crisis situation, they need foreign investment. And so, as an example, the crisis of 2000, 2001, that was a huge benefit to foreign investment, particularly in the wine industry. Money came in from all over Europe and from Chile to purchase assets in Argentina because the prices all of a sudden became very attractive. And so when I look at the ebb and flow of the economics of Argentina, what's bad or unpleasant for the country could actually be highly favorable to a foreign investor.
Good. Want to thank everyone for tuning. Oh, one more question. What are the warrant exercise dates coming back before year's end?
Oh, I think many of the financings were done this year. I don't believe there's any warrants that are expiring this year. I'd have to cross-check that. I think most of our warrants that we grant are 2- and 3-year warrants, so there's at least a year or two still to go on those.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please share your feedback. You can do it here or when you log out or in the email. And the event will be available in replay mode in about an hour and a half, 2 hours at amvestcapital.com/replays. You'll also get an email of that. And feel free to share the event as well. And pass it back to Nico and Miles to close us. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you, Campbell. I want to again thank everybody for participating and for the great questions. I think Argentina Lithium is a very unique company, and it's at the right time. Right now, we've acquired some very key projects. We're about to embark on an aggressive exploration campaign. I think we're at an inflection point where we can see the valuation of the company really begin to change. Argentina itself represents a very, very unique and big opportunity for making new lithium discoveries. The team behind this company has an exceptional track record in making discoveries, and I think Argentina Lithium is going to be successful, along that path. So, stay tuned. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.